Hello and welcome to The Discriminating Gamer. You know, not long before my grandfather died, he said to me, it's worth spending a lot of money to get a good set of speakers. Now that's sound advice. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at my top 10 fantasy flight games of all time. Hello everybody, we'll get back to the review in just a second. I just want to take a moment to ask you to go ahead and check out and subscribe to my other channel, that is Cody Carlson PhD, where we talk about military history and books on history and fun things like that. Please check that out, please subscribe, and now, back to the review. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you can imagine, I got quite the list for you. I want to jump into it here. I'm just talking about, again, these are fantasy flight games over the years that I have really enjoyed. Now, I'm going to briefly talk about some honorable mentions, and any one of these easily could have been in the top 10. They just didn't make it. First of all, Eldritch Horror, great Arkham game. Really fun. You're going around the world as investigators trying to prevent Cthulhu from coming back. Tremendous game. Star Wars X-Wing. Now, I haven't played this in years, but man, I used to play this a ton back in the day. I've got a ton of the stuff. I've got them in a big crate right now because I haven't played it in a while. But Star Wars X-Wing is a tremendously fun miniatures game. It's probably the first real miniatures game I really got into, so I really like that one a lot. Forbidden Stars. This is the great Warhammer 40K game. This is one it's kind of a strategic level game, but it's got a great combat system. And I always wanted to see expansions for this, but it didn't happen. We never got the expansions for it. I keep hoping WizKids or something will pick up the license so we can see this game again. XCOM, another great game based on a video game. This is, you each have 4 stations and you're trying to prevent an alien invasion, and you've got an app integration with this one where you're trying to do things in a certain time limit, and everybody's got their own little job. It's a great cooperative game. Letters from Whitechapel, which is a tremendous Jack the Ripper all-on-one hidden movement game. You're the cops. You're trying to find Jack the Ripper as he gets home. Jack the Ripper's trying to stay one step ahead of the cops. Great game. And then it's also got its little brother, Whitehall Mystery, which is kind of the same thing, but it's a little more streamlined, fewer player count, and it's a quicker game. That one's a lot of fun too. I like that one. And then finally on this list, I'm including probably the latest Fantasy Flight game that I've played, and that is Unfathomable. Unfathomable is a great hidden trader game set in the Cthulhu universe on a ship. A lot of fun. Played that several times. Really like that. Okay, so let's get into my top 10 list. Number 10. This is one that I know a lot of people did not really get on board with. And it was kind of originally supposed to be like the answer to Battlestar Galactica after Battlestar Galactica went out of print. And then, of course, they made Unfathomable. But this was New Angeles. I actually really like New Angeles. And I like New Angeles because essentially the whole game's about negotiation. You're negotiating which plan, which idea should go forth, and that person gets rewards. It's an idea. It's a game based around negotiation and trying to sell something to the other players. And negotiation, I've said this before, hands down, my favorite thing about board games is negotiation. I love board games where you got to negotiate. This does it very well. But there's a hidden trader mechanic here, but it works differently than a lot of other games. And what I like here too is it's not just, in order to win, I got to beat everybody. You actually only have to beat one other person unless you're the traitor, the Federalist. You know who your enemy is. You just have to beat them, and it's a fun idea there. So I really like New Angeles. That is my number 10. My number 9 is in the same universe as New Angeles, and this is Android Netrunner. Now I believe another company's just got the license to it, but for right now, I'm still counting it as a Fantasy Flight title. Really liked it. I never got into the weeds with it. I never did the tournament scene, but I got the core game, and I got a few of the expansions, few of the bigger box expansions, and whenever I play this, I had a ball. It's a great bluff and double bluff game. One player is a corporation trying to protect its secrets. The other player is a hacker trying to hack into it. Cyberpunk, really fun stuff. Really enjoyed Android Netrunner. Fantastic game. That is my number 9. My number 8 is a game that's got an expansion coming out here before too long I'm really excited about, and this is Star Wars Outer Rim. This came out in 2019. I remember I was on my research trip, and I actually came through Utah, and I was living in Texas at the time, and I actually had the package sent to Zach in Utah so that I could play it when I got there, and we did. We had a blast with Outer Rim. Played it several times since. It's a good solo game. It's also a good fun game with other people. It plays a lot like Firefly, the board game, but it's more streamlined, it's quicker. So I really enjoyed Star Wars Outer Rim. You've got the villains, the underworld. Most of the Star Wars titles are about the Rebel Alliance and the Empire, and this one was about the scum and villainy. You know, this was about the
Boba Fett's of the universe. So I really like that. So Outer Rim, tremendously fun Star Wars game. A lot of good theme there, and of course it's almost exclusively based on or the OT, the original trilogy. There's a few nods to some of the other films, but it's fundamentally an OT game, and I really like that one. So that's Star Wars Outer Rim. That is number 8. Number 7 is also a Star Wars game. This is Star Wars Armada. Star Wars Armada is kind of the big brother of X-Wing. Well, I guess it's a little brother because it came afterward. But where X-Wing is more of a kind of a tactical dogfighting game, Armada is kind of your heavy ships, your battle cruisers, your star destroyers going after each other. And to me, it's much more strategic. It was a much more interesting game. There's more choices in this game about how you deal with damage, how you inflict damage, the kinds of weapons you're outfitting your ships with. It was a lot of fun. Again, this is not one I really got into the tournament scene with, but just for casual play, I loved it. Again, I haven't played it in a while. I don't think I've played it since I moved to Texas years ago. I've got it all in a crate right there in the corner. But it's a fun game. I got to get it out, got to play it again because I really do enjoy Star Wars Armada quite a bit. So that is Star Wars Armada. That is number 7. Number 6 is A Game of Thrones, the board game. A Game of Thrones, the board game, which, of course, based on the IP, Song of Ice and Fire. Its great-granddaddy was diplomacy. It's got diplomacy DNA in it. But essentially, it's one of those games where in order to win, or in order to get ahead, you have got to forge alliances. You've got to make alliances with other players. But as soon as you start getting too powerful, those alliances begin to break down. People begin to turn on you, backstab you. So it's absolutely fitting for those kind of diplomacy mechanics, but it's still got its own things in it. It's got a pretty good combat system. And, this is another game. I haven't played it in a while. I played it down in Texas when I was down in Texas not a couple years ago. But it's good. Now, I've got the expansion to it, but I have not yet played with the expansion. That's one I really need to do. Maybe I can get a chance to do it this summer, work something out. But that is A Game of Thrones, the board game. That is my number 6. My number 5 is a game that came out while I was in Texas a few years ago, and then last year I bought the expansion to it, and I liked the base game, but the expansion just blows it out of the water. This is Civilization: A New Dawn. Civilization: A New Dawn is based on the Sid Meier video game, and it's amazing. It's got this great system of card play where you have this kind of ruler, I guess, where you put your cards under, and the further they are, the more powerful they are. But you play them, and then you put them back, and you slide all your cards. So you may need to use a certain card at a place, but it's not going to be that powerful unless you wait a few turns to use it. But it's a great system. It's a great 4X kind of a game that I really, really enjoy. So that is Civilization: A New Dawn. That is my number 5. My number 4 is a game I played a lot. I think I've got all the expansions for it, and it's one of those games I probably played, I almost want to say more than any other game. I mean, there's a few games I played a little bit more, but it's a game I played a lot. A game I played a ton. And I have fun every time I do it. This is Mansions of Madness, 2nd edition. This is a great game. In fact, I played this fairly recently. My friend Kim, she lives in Idaho. She came and visited me a while ago, and she visited me a couple times, and every time we played this, and she loves Mansions of Madness. She got a real kick out of it both times we played it. Both times I played it with her, but I played it a ton. This is a game, too, I played a lot solo. This was a great solo game. I still think it's a fantastic solo game, and it's eerie, and it's got the music, and it's scary, and no, it's just a super fun game. I really like Mansions of Madness, and I think they did a fantastic job with the app integration over the 1st edition. And there's just so much meat here and story here, and I know some people are turned off because of the app, but you shouldn't be because it's just phenomenal. It's a phenomenal game. This is Mansions of Madness, 2nd edition, and that is my number 4. Okay, we're getting into the big boys here. Now, these top 3, I think I probably easily, any one of them could have been number 1. And if you know me, you know the channel, you probably know what they are. There are all 3 of them in their own way bigger, epic games, and I love them all. And it was kind of hard to choose between the babies. Now, the number 1, I was pretty sure was number 1, but the 2 and the 3, there was a while where I kept going back and forth between them, but ultimately I'd settled on this a while ago. My number 3 is Star Wars Rebellion. Star Wars Rebellion is it's Star Wars in a box. It is the OT. One side's the Empire, one side's the Rebels, and you are trying to hunt them down. If you're the Empire, you're trying to hunt them down. If you're the Rebels, you're trying to stay hidden as long as you can. And the Rebels are trying. It's asymmetrical. The Rebels cannot beat the Empire in a slugfest. They just don't have the power. So they're doing these like subversion, guerrilla movements, guerrilla tactics. So it's very thematic to the films. Now, the original base game, combat was not that great. Combat was the worst part of the game. And they really fixed that with the expansion, the Rise of the Empire expansion. So I highly recommend if you get this game, get that. Now, you don't have to get it to still have fun with it. But I really strongly urge you to get the Rise of the Empire expansion if you get the base game, because it brings so much to the game. But it's also kind of your own Star Wars adventure, because it doesn't follow the script of the films, obviously. You can have a thing where, Lando Calrissian becomes a Jedi, or Leia gets corrupted and goes to the dark side, right? You can have Tatooine get blown up by the Death Star. So there's all these different sorts of things that happen in the game that really evoke Star Wars, but it allows you to take it in new and fun directions. And I will say there is a 4-player variant, and I played it a couple times. The 4-player variant, I won't play it again. This is a 2-player game, and they kind of tacked on the 4 players. So if you're thinking you're going to get this 4-player, you don't want to do that. Just stick with 2-player. That's really all you need. But this phenomenal game. If you like Star Wars, you really need to get this game and play it. This is Star Wars Rebellion, and that is my number 3. My number 2, again, this is going to be no surprise to anybody who's watched the show. This is Battlestar Galactica. Now, Battlestar Galactica, of course, as I mentioned, they just reprinted Unfathomable here fairly recently. And Unfathomable is a fun game, but I love the theme of Battlestar Galactica so much. It was such a great TV show. And the board game captured the feel of the show and the paranoia of the show so well, and I just loved it so much. And one thing about Unfathomable is it's more streamlined. They really did streamline gameplay in a lot of ways. And so Battlestar, by comparison, is a little more clunky in gameplay, but to me, it's more than made up for in the theme and the fun. If you liked Battlestar Galactica, if you like the TV show, this is one you got to get. It's out of print, so it's super expensive, and it probably won't be coming back into print anytime soon. But this is the one you probably want to get if you have a choice. Otherwise, Unfathomable is a really great game, and maybe people that aren't as familiar with Battlestar Galactica would prefer playing that one. And if you can't get your hands on Battlestar Galactica, Unfathomable is a good alternative. But I love Battlestar. It's phenomenal, and I can't see myself ever giving that up. They're both in my collection right now. I'll probably continue to keep them both in my collection for various reasons. But I love both of these games so much. But Battlestar Galactica, far and away, because of the theme and because of just the way it works so well, I give it an edge. Obviously, Unfathomable is not on the top 10 list. Battlestar is. So that's why Battlestar's so high. I love it, and is it just the theme? Maybe. I don't know, but I love it. So that is Battlestar Galactica, the board game. That is my number 2. And of course, my number 1 game of Fantasy Flight. This is going to be no surprise to anyone. In fact, for a long time, this was my favorite game of all time, and it just got knocked off a couple of years ago from that pedestal. But this is Twilight Imperium 4th Edition. This is probably my second favorite game of all time right now. Twilight Imperium 4th Edition is a grand, epic space adventure. It's planned on 6 to 8 hours with this game, but it's an event. This is an event game. But man, it's fun. This is one of those games that just blows you away every time you play it. What I like about this game is it plays out like a movie, right, or like a TV show. But you are the actors. You are the people that get to determine how it plays out. And what I'm implying here is there's a real role-playing element to the game. Now, I'm not saying you cosplay and you talk with strange alien accents, although I might. But you really do get into your characters. You really do get into the idea of this is what we're trying to do. This is our strategic dilemma. This is the puzzle we've got to solve. And how are we going to use our unique player abilities to our advantage? And how are we going to counter our enemies? And it really does feel like a grand science fiction epic TV show or movie that you and your friends are creating. I absolutely love TI4. TI3 was my favorite game for a long time. TI4 knocked it down, of course, obviously. And then it's only been surpassed, in my opinion, by War Room, which is a World War II game, which you kind of get the same epic feel, but it's World War II. So I really, really like that one quite a bit. But as far as science fiction epics go, nothing touches this one. There's other games that are kind of like it. I like Eclipse. I love. I think Eclipse is a fantastic game, but it still doesn't touch my feelings for TI4. It still doesn't build the kind of worlds that TI4 builds for me. So that is Twilight Imperium 4th Edition. That is my number 1 Fantasy Flight game of all time. Well, thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for The Discriminating Gamer. Again, do you like my selections? Do you think I should have included something else on here? Are there things on here you don't like? Please let me know. I'm always excited to hear what you have to say. Please leave a comment here on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page. Please follow us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. Please check out my other channel, Cody Carlson PhD, where we talk about books on history and military history and those sorts of fun things. Please check it out. Please subscribe. We really appreciate that. You know, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people ask me why Tesla cars are so expensive, and the answer is simple. They charge a lot.
Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I've been dying. Once a year I wind up in the band. God knows that I love to fight, but I don't ever win. It's a fine line to damnation, but God let me in.
How am I going to get my planet back, though?
Do not.